All right.
Well, then
I'd like to,
My bad,
personnel
George.
committee, member meeting together here for Washington County Board of Supervisors on July 11th, 2024 at 9:30 a.m. The first order, we called order of the business would be to accept the minutes. Do I have a motion? So moved. Minutes. Moved by Dave, seconded by James and Brian. And now we'll get into the business. Danielle, with staffing, please.
So I'll start with the straight back bills. I do have two additions. So the first one is code enforcement. We did have a code enforcement officer resign on June 26th. The other addition was in DSS, a social services examiner vacated on July 17th due to a resignation. The ones that were included on the agenda were the county clerk. They had a senior motor vehicle license clerk vacate due to a resignation. District attorney, assistant district attorney vacated June 20th due to a promotion to the supervising ADA position. In DPW, we had two highway worker 2 vacate due to resignations. And public health, we have the early intervention program coordinator vacating at the end of August due to a resignation.
And I may have heard you wrong, but I know it says here, July 5th. I thought you said 7/17 for the county clerk position. Is that?
No, it was the fifth. I
It
was
was
from, yeah,
Okay,
sorry.
well, no, we got just.
Yeah, it's the DSS.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's down
Yep,
here.
I
Okay.
skipped
Okay,
around a little
gotcha.
bit.
That's
I
what-
did the additions first.
All right, we're good. Okay, got you now. All right, so- All right. Morning, Jay. Morning. Okay, so are there any questions on the straight backfills? And we don't need a motion on those, right? It's just a matter of you filling them back up and we're good to go. All right, let's move to our tracking patterns, please.
So this item was from public health. She did not bring it to Health and Human Services last month, but she asked if I'd bring it to personnel.
Okay.
She was requesting to add a temporary full-time position for the EI coordinator that is leaving in August. She wanted to have this position for cross-training purposes, where the second position would be removed at the end of August when the person leaves. And she did have funding due to breakage. So she was asking if she could do that overlap for that position.
Oh,
For training.
Good. Give a second.
Any idea what the cost is?
I don't.
You think it's within the budget, Brad? She tells it is.
She
Okay.
has some
You-
extra funding
Yeah.
from.
So much the
We don't
same
need to
rate
talk
as
about
she's
that.
been getting, so.
What's the officer point? Oh,
Well, the problem is when you lose more money by not having them trained and then we're behind more, so that's where my concern is.
so that is your money, so.
It did.
You haven't seen me complain yet. Like, do you see the sheet?
Oh, yeah.
Jim, is Sheriff of Human Services, you okay with that? Good, okay. Very good, so the
This
chairman
is
of the
a
committee is also in favor of this, so is there any further discussion?
Well, the sun dumps would be.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
The next item was moved from Health and Human Services for Public Health. She's requesting to remove the 2 graduate fellow positions and the 5 fellow positions from the staffing pattern and the non-union title by grade schedule. This is due to the grant ending on June 30th.
We have a motion to move that. James moves it, seconded by Brian. Is there any discussion? All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed, carried. Takes us to the others.
So we'll start with, I just wanted to let you guys know that the Cancer Prevention in Action and the CLIP grant that we asked for sun safety, we did receive $20,000 for that. So we're working toward getting some items from through the grant to distribute out to all of the departments that work outside. So we're getting some sunscreen and hats and visors, some pop-up tents for our DPW, mower shades for our sewer district, and some dispensing systems with sunscreen for around the area. So that would.
Something for lifeguards as well.
The lifeguard, well, that did it.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's too bad.
sorry. I know.
That's too bad.
So,
They gotta have their special kind anyway, okay?
we can get umbrellas for our lifeguards though, which we're looking to do, so. So that was just an update on that.
Who didn't approve the lifeguards having sunscreen?
The state, they said, well, it was the chair, we asked for chairs for them, and they said the chairs were not UV protection for them, so, and it wasn't a part of the scope
gotcha.
of the grant, so,
Okay. Understand.
yeah. And another item is on the back of your agenda is the employment opportunities that we currently have. Just an FYI. For you all.
Never mind.
That's all that I had.
Does anyone have any questions on those items? And then we have some additions, so why don't we work backwards on this? Let's start with food truck first.
Okay, yes, I just wanted to notify the committee that the approval for the food trucks to come onto the county property every Tuesdays to offer lunch to employees. That has been in progress. We've made progress with that. We have 2 food trucks that are going to be coming to Washington County. And it will start next Tuesday and go into September as long as they get the business and people utilize them. So that'll be every Tuesday, Food Truck Tuesdays. And that was a request from employees to have another option for lunch, to have them come onto property, and the board approved that. And so we're happy that we'll try it and see how it goes.
I've had a lot of employees ask, when are they coming? So it seems like there's a lot of excitement over them.
Good.
So,
Where the trucks gonna be?
They are going to be parallel to Route 4, right in front of the DPW shop. We're going to cone off both ends of that parking area so that if people are lined up to get their lunch, there isn't traffic going in and out of there.
In time.
11 o'clock until 2 o'clock, so it should cover everyone's lunch break. So. Yes.
I blocked the other one.
Any other questions on the food truck? Then let's move on to Melissa's carryover vacation time.
Okay. Unfortunately, I have a request to carry over 7 days of vacation. I had planned on using 2 more days this month that I didn't use. So I am just asking to be able to carry over the 7 days into my next year. My anniversary date is July 15th.
We have a motion? James, second by Brian and Jay. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
And now we'll do this cancer screening time.
Yes, my last item, in the handbook, we currently offer employees 4 hours of cancer screening benefit time, and that is put into all of their buckets. We've had various meetings over the last several months as far as health insurance, the cost of the health insurance, the claims, the increase in claims and what that has done, I guess, to the county budget, as you've seen. We've had to put in $2 million this year to help sustain that budget line. And there was a 15% increase to employees this year, and we're expecting probably the same at least for next year. And I don't think we see any end in sight as far as the cost for health insurance and what that's going to do to the county and to the employees. So in the discussion we had yesterday with our broker, Benetech, it became pretty clear that one of the things that we can do as a county is to make employees or continue making employees aware of the importance of prevention. And that includes your screenings for various cancers. Not everyone goes to the doctor. A lot of people think that that's a badge of honor, that they don't go to the doctor at all. They don't utilize their insurance. Unfortunately, those are usually the people that end up having more, and I guess more, I won't say dangerous, but conditions, costly conditions, and unfortunately, can cost them more than just monetary, sometimes it's their health or their life. So what I am proposing is that we change the current benefit that's offered, which is the 4 hours, and that's mandatory, the 4 hours cancer screening. That's New York State Civil Service law. But I'm recommending that we change that to just a 1 day instead of the 4 hours, so that employees will not have to use their own benefit time for the screening. My thought process is that it may help encourage those employees that do not currently get the screenings to go ahead and do that. Some employees don't have a lot of sick time to use for various reasons. Either they're new employees or they've had health issues, so they've been out of work. So this might make it a little bit more, I don't know, encouraging, I guess, them to get these screenings done. So I would just like to get some feedback from the committee to see if this is something you're interested in doing. And I would like to make it the 1 day benefit time, and then if it's approved, it could come back to personnel next month to change the handbook.
Now, currently, it's 4 hours, so conceivably they could come back for another 4 hours, but you're saying they don't, they usually take the day.
They don't
and
go at
have to
all.
Use time.
So what's a lot of the screenings that are more, I guess, intrusive, for lack of a better word, are procedures that you can't return to work, right? You can't drive afterwards, you have anesthesia. So you're basically out of commission for the day. So if your appointment, depending what time it is, you're just not able to return to work.
The two biggest beneficial screenings are endoscopies and colonoscopies, and you can't return after either one of those. And those are the two that we really want to encourage,
Okay,
because they catch so much so early.
yeah, okay.
So they're stuck now with having to use their own time for the rest of the day because they can't come back even if they wanted.
Yeah, okay, I understand.
And again, you can always do more than the law, you just can't do less. And for salary employees, a day's a day, so it's kind of a fairness issue as well, because, you know, you're gonna, a salary employee is gonna get paid for the cancer day, because a day is a day regardless of how many hours. And this kind of levels the playing field and hopefully will encourage the two most beneficial tests, you can't
Yeah.
return to work. So-
Okay, so I don't want to belabor this, but just one more question. Cancer screening, does it also include going to check for skin cancer?
Sure, of course.
Yeah, and you have prostate cancer, if you have to take a biopsy, that is a screening
Yeah,
method to see where you are on that. If you
Sure.
have to, you know, you have liver cancer, you have all those types of things that are invasive that they have to go in and do with it. You know,
And as a reminder too, they won't, I'm sorry, Chair.
no, go ahead.
As a reminder too, they won't be paid a cancer benefit on top of their daily pay. This is,
Right.
they were gonna receive the same amount of pay they would have received that pay period anyway. So it's not additional money, it's just butt and seat time that
Okay,
you're losing.
I think we're looking for a motion to say yes on this, yeah, concept, and then for handbook change. You have a motion on that? Brian moves it, Jay seconds it. Jim seconds it.
Thank you.
And I think in the next meeting, you're gonna see the importance of that decision, so thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried. Is there anything else at this point in time to come before the personnel committee? If not, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Very good. Call the meeting to order.
You're correct.
I'll
Thank
give you
you.
one of those.
Thank you. Okay, set the minutes to the June 13th meeting. Motion by James, second by Sam. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Carried. Treasurer report. Couldn't get on.
Good news. I'm short, sweet, and I won't be the biggest cloud in the room today.
Thanks.
I will be a ray of sunshine compared to what is going to follow. Quite briefly, the sales tax continues to hang in strong. If it's our new norm, I'm extremely happy about that, but only time will tell. One thing I will remind you, the deposit on the 15th is the last one in our distribution cycle. So I will try to get that out to you as soon as possible. I won't make you wait another month because I know some of you probably start your town budget workshop if you haven't already very soon. So after the July 15th deposit, that determines what the town distribution will be for 2025. So as soon as I have that deposit in and the worksheet worked up for next year, I will immediately get that out to you guys so you have it for your town budget workshops. Cash balances are running strong. A lot of it right now is actually capital construction money, but general fund is hanging in there pretty strong as well. We're halfway through the year and budget to actual, we're actually trending pretty good. General fund looked like it was trending $2 million to the good compared to this time last year. However, the interfund transfers to county road are 3.5 million less than they were this time last year. So the DSS expenses are up a little bit compared to this time last year. And if you were to transfer that money to county road, we'd actually be lagging behind this time last year in general. So we'll see more about that in the budget workshops, but there's nothing right now that's drastically different or concerning in the 24 budget. Most of the bad news you'll hear is the 25. But carpool was trending down a little bit in revenues. So when I dug into that, we were actually a month ahead this time last year. So while it looks like we're $70,000 lagging behind last year, last month's deposit was 101,000. So we may in fact be trending $30,000 over last year if it was apples to apples. So the rate increase definitely is making a difference. Should it be more? Probably, but I'll take a $30,000 swing, you know, baby steps. County road is trending under this time last year, but we were also had spent more already this year on the projects. So it's very possible that was able to get some more stuff done earlier because the weather had been fairly cooperative until monsoon season. So, you know, she will pave as much as she can, as long as she can. County road machinery is trending up $60,000. Again, we did a rate adjustment last year, a planned rate adjustment. That the rate adjustment appears to be working. So while the fund isn't fixed, it's definitely in less need of life support than it was this time last year. Sewer one, we are currently experiencing a little bit of a cash flow problem. Kevin and I have had some discussions. He's working very diligently because he's got the receivables out there that he needs. He just needs people to pay them. So he's working very diligently on how that collection process can be expedited and maybe get some money. You got to remember, sewer one is the smaller of the two funds and never has carried a very large cash balance to begin with. So when you have some higher expenditures and slower payers, the combination of the two is not great for cash flow. So it's on Kevin's radar.
If I may, yeah, I mean, particularly if you have one or two large users that don't pay the February bill, to kind of dust over, so we receive more revenue in August.
The good news is one of their biggest bills is actually to sewer district number 2. And sewer district number 2 is very patiently going to wait for their money to come over to them. So that will kind of help sewer 1 weather this short-term cash flow issues.
I Again,
Yes, sir.
we did discuss this today too with commissioners. Our plan was to bring up public works next month, after do a little more research, but we think increasing the late fee percentage that users have to pay if they pay past due might be effective. It's currently 5%, and commissioners believe it historically has always been that. And for reference, we owe Queensberry for their water bill, which is 12% late charge. And two of our commissioners representing villages mentioned Hudson Falls is a 10% late charge for their water, and we know Queensberry is a 12, and I believe the village of Fort Edward is 10. So we're under, I guess. So the commissioners are in agreement to increase our late fee percentage. That's something we can take action on today, or a little more preparation. I don't know what that entails.
Local law change, if I remember correctly. I think it's in the local law, Evan, so.
What do you think? That's gotta come through their committee.
It's a great idea.
Yeah, I'll bring it up. I'll have a little bit more. I'll inform Dan for it.
So it'd be introduced in August and passed in September, which would be too late for the next round of bills, but it hit you for 2025. Sewer district number 2, luckily, is right now pretty much on par with this time last year, so nothing drastic there. Gavin's projects are moving forward down at the plant with a couple of little additions. Workers' comp, our expenses are up a little bit, but nothing outrageous. The biggest thorn in my side, it continues to be the self-insurance, health insurance fund, because it feels like every time we take a breath and have a good week, next week comes around with a $300,000 claim hit. So we're weathering the storm the best we can. And we had a very interesting conversation with Benetech yesterday. It's not unique to Washington County. That doesn't make it any better. We sat through a meeting at ACC, and I think their budget adjustment was a little over $500,000 in their health insurance line. So this is kind of an industry-wide thing. Benetech has run us through where some of the increases are consistently across the industry. They helped us look at some of our drug spend, and you may hear more about some possible solutions there in the future, not today. But we will continue to try to monitor it best we can. Melissa touched on prevention. Unfortunately, some of what we saw yesterday in the meeting, prevention could help, but not always necessarily. We have big spends right now on there's a lot of people that are on the like Wegovy and Ozempic type drugs for like the diabetes drug, the diabetes injectables. The TV commercials unfortunately have been very effective, because we have some other drugs that are the same exact drug on our plan that we looked at. One of them specifically is a $500 difference between the non-popular one and one of these Ozempic and Wegovy, nationally televised. It's for the same active ingredient, just different name brand. So we could work with Benetech and the carrier on, maybe some cost avoidance or cost controls in those areas. But some of this stuff, we're not going to play God. And if you need a medicine, you need a medicine. It's, just how it is. We'll do prevention where we can. We'll do worksite wellness where we can. And we had one of those shocking reminders yesterday. That's not, we tend to focus on our employees. What can we do for the employees? Benetech help us remember that there's a good amount of our claim costs that are actually spouses and dependents. And we tend to sometimes forget about their impact on our fund. So that'll be something that I think we'll be looking at in the near future. Because we focus very hypervigilantly on what can we do for the employees, and maybe lose sight sometimes on the extended family that has needs as well.
And I think the communication and outreach is more important now
Than ever.
than ever. So we're just gonna have to communicate with the employees and their families, anything that they can do to help get these costs under control for themselves and for the county.
It wouldn't surprise me to have you here during the budget workshops this year. Melissa and Daniel come to you with things like incentives You know, we may actually monetize incentives to do certain milestones that are proven to help contain costs. And sometimes you have to be the carrot, not the stick, so.
When we give the incentive for cancer screening,
Yes, sir.
there's been a text, say that may knock out a percentage of cost for insurance that we're going forward with that. Would that help with the insurance cost?
The industry belief is prevention. Dollars invested in prevention are the best invested dollars. We hope that to be true. If we can just catch one of our high cost claimants before it becomes something that's significant. Number one,
It'll be home there.
we
won't see it.
we value our employees, first of all, right? It's not all about money. We'd like you to be healthy and come to work every day and work for the taxpayers and, you know, we'd love you to have a great quality of life. And one of the ways to do that is to ensure that you're on top of your own personal health. So if we can help incentivize that, you know, there's a balancing act between our fiduciary responsibility and, you know, keeping you healthy, happy, and in your seat. So we'll try to find what
So
that
yeah, no,
balance is.
there's no direct correlation that we can make. But the fact of the matter is, if we prevent you from getting sick or as sick, there should be a lot less cost for us paying to get you cured.
No, I
That's what
understand.
they're asking.
Sometimes supervisor, it's like the tourism dollars, they tell me that they're out there, but it's hard to. The thing with the health insurance, it's hard to prove the things that didn't happen. Right, so if you get a cancer screening that prevents a cancer incident, I don't know that I can measure what didn't happen. So it's really hard to wrap your head around, was there a return on the investment?
To that, heart doctor told me a blood center and I says, well, I don't want to be on it. He says, you know, nobody thanks me for not having a stroke.
It's kind of the same.
Do you really want to say something after that, Sam?
I do, yes.
Can you top that?
No, I can't. But I do have a question. So maybe Benetech with the clients that they do have, that have active preventive programs, could show us a comparison of what it was before they started and where it went. Now we know it's gonna go up, probably because the cost of medicine went up, but project where it was and what it would have been if they had to go in a regular cycle, haven't been detected.
And part of what we're seeing, Supervisor Hall, is we actually have some less claims, but the claims that we do have are coming in more expensive.
Yeah.
So where we might have had 100 people go to the doctor, we may now have 80, but those 80 are costing more than the 100.
Right.
So the number of incidents is down, but the cost of their care has increased.
Yeah. And that affects the insurance. That's why
Yeah,
I'm saying what I'm saying. I support, okay,
Yeah.
this concept, totally.
yeah.
But that would give us maybe a comparison that Benetech would have, not just to compare ourselves, but with those that have had successful programs, how it can actually impact the dogs. In this ratio.
So this kind of compares to our EMS situation. You try everything to get everything to work, get everybody to work together. It worked that we kept our hospital by being with Albany Med. The problem is now there's just two groups, Albany Med and St. Peter's. So they align and they decide what the contract's gonna be with the insurance company. The insurance company maybe doesn't wanna pay that number. They have to where they don't have the business. So it's driving up the costs of each thing. But I think the most interesting that came out of that was we were expecting the medical costs to be way up. And they are, but they're only 60% and they used to be 70. Now the pharmacy cost is 40% and it used to be 30. And it's like, it's hard to see all that coming or what you can do about it.
Well, it's difficult because once you detect with the preventive screening that there's something needs to be done, then you intervene. The intervention is the drugs and the therapy and those kind of things. So you're, in essence, it's a trade-off. You're paying up front to hopefully start it sooner, but then longevity of life.
You're hoping it's on the back end.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. Harvest.
As an example, one of the drugs that they showed us yesterday is a kidney drug is $23,000 a month cost. per month, every month that that person has to take that drug. And could a screening help us not get to that point? The hope is that yes, right? For a couple reasons. One, we don't want you to get sick, and two, that's a, you know, a recurring cost.
Always changing.
Pretty life-changing event. It's also got a financial aspect to it.
Having one kidney, I can link to that.
We were reminded yesterday also about the prescription programs that are out there, like the Good RX and those programs where your drugs, your prescriptions aren't going through your health insurance, and it's usually at a reduced cost, so it's costing the employer, the consumer less money, and it's not counted as a claim for us. So that's something we're gonna be reiterating to the employees, the importance of those programs as far as cost savings.
Yeah, I stumbled into a personal event myself where we were having an issue with the insurance company, and the 2-year-old in me came out and I said, well, how much is it? Just buy it. Right? So she ran it through this RX, the Good RX card or whatever, and it was like $23.99 cash price. And I'm like, so I paid less money out of pocket and the county paid nothing. So we're, you know, so like I said, I stumbled on it by accident, but I think our education, the employees needs to be like, hey, you may want to check into this.
Sometimes it's just asking
Not
the
only
right
can you
question.
save money,
But
but
you don't know what questions to ask.
Yeah,
you don't know, so we're gonna help you know what questions to ask.
in one, I had the same type deal where it was like a $10 drug was my copay. And the insurance wouldn't even approve it. And the woman said, well, they don't need to. And she put it through the card and it was $5. Don't know if the drug did any good, but it's just money that's all.
The other thing that could RX show you is what the cost is. Like I moved some of my relatives out of the pharmacy they're into a different one, because the pharmacies are so much more
Yes.
versus each other,
So
so.
really, that's interesting.
Oh, yeah.
And so some of the pharmacies don't want you to use the RX card. They want your insurance money too. You
Right,
get-
but I mean, if you went to, say, Rite Aid or CVS or a local pharmacy, the
That's-
prices
that's
are all
good to-
different on the,
That's good to know as well, that you can shop around.
it brings it up. If you punch in the prescription in the Good RX app, it'll bring up what it's costing in each place.
Dave,
Piggybacking on it, there's some of the independent pharmacies that will charge you less price. I know I've been to Fred's and Greenville. If it's less than the copay, he's gonna charge you what the cost of the drug is. When the copay was $10, it was like $2.90 for,
And for it's the same thing.
yeah.
Well, great, it's being broadcast now. He owes you a fee for mentioning his name online. That's great.
that's why you did it.
I'm Dave O'Brien, and I approve the message. But that's all you hear from me for now, but I reserve the right to run my mouth in the near future.
Local law C, county attorney.
That's that I hate talking legal when we're talking finance.
However,
He gets expensive.
Yes, local law C is part of the new statutes that were passed as part of the whole tax foreclosure response and legislative response to the Tyler versus Hennepin County decision. Basically, it codifies what is in now the new section 1146 of the real property tax law, which now says pretty much we have to provide payment plans, and gave the governing body to enact and amend a local law for payment plans. So this is basically what I have put together, which has pretty much follows the legislative language of section 1146 of the real property tax law. I did add the one term in there that indicates under the qualifications that property owners have previously defaulted on a repayment plan agreement with the county. So that people can't keep, not paying, defaulting, and then trying to get back in. Whether that will survive at some point if it gets challenged remains to be seen. It does help clear up, and it's limited to owners' property residences, so it doesn't apply to commercial properties, doesn't apply to rental properties. There is a fairly limited window that's owed. Unfortunately, it is kind of a tax-free loan, because it basically says once you, or I should say an interest-free loan, in that once you establish a payment plan, the payments have to be equal. However, the interest, if they default, does become due and owing at that time. So that is that section. I'll answer any questions to the extent I can. I did run it past Al. We did a couple of times, and I think he's generally okay with it.
I have a question. This talks about tax delinquencies. If they go into this payment plan and are following it, I assume they also have to pay their tax that they're accruing.
They have to be current. And
Okay,
one of the.
with
one of the-
that as well as this.
So one of the conversations Dan and I had was somebody somewhere eventually is going to have to legally define what current is. Because the enforcing tax is the town and county. So my stance on this is going to be, and it's probably maybe overly generous, but I could defend it in court. The village tax, if you don't pay your village tax and you don't pay your school tax, I don't find you in default. Because those two will be re-levied on the town and county. And to me, the town and county, until it comes to me on April first, town and county bill is when you are deemed to be delinquent in the eyes of the law. I think Dan and I agree that our safe position to not be sued in court every 5 minutes is that town and county bill on April first becoming delinquent is the trigger for you being delinquent on your repayment option. So while I don't encourage them to not pay their village and not pay their school, our enforcement will begin April first if they do not pay their town and county.
Okay, so it starts April first, your enforcement starts within the law. And next April first, they decide not to pay it. So does it just continue this way with the payment plan?
So if they default on the payment plan, they're out, and our law is gonna preclude them from coming back in.
On the payment plan, if the payment plan set up, say April first of 2025.
So again, once they,
So in 2026, they don't pay their taxes due that year, but they keep paying this payment plan.
then they're still in
probably
default.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right, that's what I,
yeah, then they have 45 days to cure their default, or everything is reversed as if it never happened,
okay,
and they can end up on the very next auction block.
okay,
So you don't have to start the process all over. We literally pick up where we left off.
okay.
So that, one of the reasons this board hasn't ever voted for payment plans before was while it can keep people in their homes, that extreme risk of default, that you could be 19 out of 20 payments into it and still lose your home, has always been the one linchpin that has made this board very cautious in allowing payment plans. Because you could literally still lose your home after, 36 months of on-time payments, and that was always the one thing that seemed to not sit well with you all. But now it's something we have to do, whether we want to or not. And I think it will keep some people in their homes. There's no doubt in my mind. The other thing the law did is we used to, on August 1st of every year, we used to add a $150 abstracting fee for the title search that we have to do on all the properties. The law now allows us to do either a flat $250 or 2% of the lien. Looking at what we have, I think the flat $250 is gonna be my recommendation, and that's how I plan on proceeding. It has nothing to really do with this local law, I'm just sharing with you, that's another change. Because when we figure the surplus, we're like, because the law refers to admin fees, well, they finally at least told us what admin fees actually is, it's either $250 or 2%. But you can't have, oh, I want you to pay $250, I want you to pay 2%. We have to pick a path and go down that. It looks like statewide, the bulk of my peers opted for the $250 because it's a mechanism that you can literally just, it's a flat fee, it just goes on August 1st and we move on. But that fee still goes to the county. Should the property still go to auction in determining the surplus, that fee stays in there in determining the surplus. So it's only $100 more than we would have had, but it's better than a kick in the teeth, I guess. Jay?
So just for clarity, so that I understand there, because I'm a little slow today, the 36, somebody comes in, they owe $5,000
Yes, sir.
and they say, hey, I want a 36-month payment program.
Yes, sir.
Is it 5,000 or is it okay, 5,000 interest over 36 months?
So it literally, the day they sign the agreement, their interest freezes. And that's the part of it that's very interesting. So whatever they owe that day, the clock stops and that amount becomes the payment plan.
but you also have a
If they default, you go back and reinstitute all the interest that they would have been charged.
But
But
you
they
also
get-
have a.
That 36 months is
start, right?
interest free.
Right, but you've already got your penalty for being in default And your interest, by the time they sign this, is already in.
So that
Right, but they're gonna have 36 months interest-free loan.
they are.
Right, but they paid like 17, did you say 17%?
That interest-free loan already has 3 years of 12% in it.
Yeah, so it's a big
There's a
number
couple of different
already.
ways to look at it, but it does freeze their interest for, and they can choose 12 months. The taxpayer gets to choose the term of the agreement.
Right, I
That's-
mean, but
that's
if
the state
somebody's
tax rates,
intent on
not the way I
repaying,
wrote it.
go 36 months, they'd be making little payments and
And
it's
and you might,
interest-free.
you might want me out of your hair in 12, right? So you get to choose pick your poison. Supervisor.
Yeah. I guess, although I'm slow-minded today too, but I guess I'm a little suspicious of this because here you have your money for free for 36 months. So there's businesses that are gonna go tax-free or, interest-free. It's worth us to go and do that. What keeps it from snowballing? I don't see the clarity in keeping this from snowballing.
If they paid 12 3 times to get to this point, they've actually got 36% more.
Even-
Now you got,
I missed the beginning of what you said.
it's 12% every year.
So the deterrent is the interest that they're gonna be paying until they get to this point. Because they're gonna be 3 years delinquent before they even get this option.
Which is 36%
So
more
you're
than
gonna
what
have-
they owed to begin with.
So
36 months on one tax, 24 months on another tax, and 17% on the third tax. So you would have had to have absorbed all those fees just to get the 36 months interest free. I'm not sure any logical business person would choose that path.
So I've done that for 3 years worth of taxes. Now my new bill comes. What's the status? How do you have to pay that one to
Yes,
stay
yes.
non-delinquent? So you own, right, so to me, I'm looking where, like, there must be a way to get around this, cause now I just said, hey, I'm gonna pay 36 months to push all this out,
And you have to stay current.
but you still have to pay the new bill that comes on top
In
of it.
full,
And if you don't pay the new bill in full,
you're in
It's
default.
gone.
the default.
You have
So all-
45 days to cure that.
basically, it's only a safety net to give you. Cause as soon as you miss the 4th year, cause you missed 3 years in a row, if you miss the 4th year, then it doesn't matter anyway, all this goes out. And you owe for all 4 years plus the interest for the previous.
If there was an event like a sickness that put you behind, that event is no longer a thing in your life, this plan will absolutely help you out of the hole. If the reason you were in the hole to begin with still exists, this plan is probably not going to help.
No, it's only gonna make
And
it big
again,
by the
that has
time they
been one
hang
of
you.
it's been one of the cautionary tales for this board every time we've brought it up. We've come to the board 3 times with this plan.
But
And
the
that was
state
always the,
instituted this one.
But it
the
seems
state-
like if you couldn't pay 3 years in a row, when the 4th year comes along, you're not gonna be able to pay, because if you could have paid, if you were out of trouble and you could have paid, well, then you would have paid the oldest one, now you only owe 2, I would have a
Right.
3-year snowball in front of you.
and again, that philosophy is what has killed this always in the past.
It's the state.
Now, previously we discussed this, other counties close to us have this in effect already, correct?
Some have partial payments in effect for delinquent, some actually have, partial payments in effect for current.
And they're gonna have to change to this plan also.
So people who already offer this will just have to make sure that their plan is
Fits the state
fits
law.
this law, and most of them probably already do.
And previously, we've heard that it has been working in their situation.
So a lot of the other counties like Essex, their residents actually enjoy splitting their current bill into payments. This doesn't do that.
Okay.
This is only on delinquent taxes where you're headed to auction.
Yeah, I had two different questions on the same subject. So we talked about the commercial usage, didn't apply. So are farms considered commercial?
As long as it's owner occupied.
Okay, because in here it says that, so I guess we're getting that, says the property is the owner's primary resident. So based on that, they would be eligible. Right. They're not,
Basically,
well, but they would be, because if,
your mailing address and your property address is
Yep.
the same, you probably are owner occupied.
And now that's changed so
If I'm
much.
mailing
because
your
they
tax
usually
bill
own their
to
own
Manhattan,
house or an LLC
it's
and they're
probably
really
a
the same
second
thing.
home.
okay,
So when you look at the tax delinquent tax rolls, there'll be people that have multiple properties in there. It's only gonna apply to the one their house is on. It's not
Yes.
gonna apply to any of the others, so you're.
What's real easy is if their primary residents are gonna have the star exemption. So they're
Right.
gonna be fairly simple to ascertain which properties are actually owner occupied. And unfortunately, I don't think it's a very large portion of our current options. But we keep 5 people in their house. Maybe it was worth it.
So, and my other question on that is that part, and Dana can probably give some guidance on this. In the rental market today, with all the stuff that's left over from COVID and those kind of things, do you think that, and the stuff that the state is doing now with evictions and the way they can be done, how long they can be done, do you think this will take some of the smaller rental places off the market as far as being rentals? Because if they're, the amount of money they're gonna have to lay out if the people aren't paying their rent and the amount of time it takes to evict them, are we gonna end up with a property that, we can't do anything with at the county level? Don't think so.
No, the evictions is set up again.
I don't know. I
Yeah,
just,
they're not like they were.
The landlords have some of their rights back is what I saw last.
okay,
They're processing eviction.
okay. I just wanted to hope we weren't creating another problem with the other rent force, that was all.
Oh, we must
Second
be.
problem couldn't be
That's
getting.
what we do best.
Well, I know, but if we could avoid it, that'd be good too. Okay, that answers my questions.
Which is this is why there's not an auction this month like was planned. And unfortunately, I think by the time this rolls through, because it's a 2-month process to pass a local law. And then I have to send letters out to all of the affected property owners to let them know they have the right to an agreement, and then sit down with each one of them and actually execute an agreement. So we're probably looking at another October auction, which is what we didn't want. But that's where we are. We have to work through this process.
It's just gonna take more than me an hour to process all this.
Absolutely.
Just gonna take more money.
Absolutely. I figured that.
Thank God I love my job. Then I turned 55 in November.
I would try to ask some questions that Dan might come up with if he was here.
Keep them to yourself. What did I do to you recently? So the one that I want to ask you about, because I find it interesting, it's even in there, and it must be the state wanted in there. Why is there a cap? A minimum and a maximum of what's.
That's the way they wrote the statute.
Again, it's in the statute.
Very interesting. It's like if your taxes are that cheap, no, you gotta pay them, and if you own that much, that you owe that kind of tax, you'll find a way to pay it once, be what's behind it, but I'm just surprised that was there. Okay, anything more on local law C? We're good. Do we have to move that to the full board, or is that just headed there?
You have a resolution A in the back to set a public hearing.
So motion to move resolution.
Public hearing.
Moved by Cassie, second by James. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. So now we're on to local law D for the occupancy office.
After ag and planning last time, there was a concern, knowing that there is legislation on the governor's desk that she could sign, especially with regard to the short-term rentals. And as we know, currently we have a voluntary tax agreement, especially with one of the major vendors in that regard, which they could change to decide they want out of it at a moment's notice in fear that the governor is going to sign that law. So what we were hoping to do was to add some language, which I put under the definitions section, to hopefully be able to continue to capture that revenue for the time being. And basically, the definition section adds the short-term rental. And additionally, there was a change to the, after much discussion, the registration section of section 8, where we kind of took out the whole 4 or more and basically said that all rentable units defined within the local law should register with New York State and or local registration provisions. Additionally, with that 4, there was some question as to what could be rented, and I changed the language to rentable units because hopefully when you're renting an Airbnb, no one's renting a bathroom for something to sleep in. So the rentable unit is basically going to encompass a room that somebody's actually going to sleep in. So hopefully we have some clarification.
So I guess my question would be over under N2. I know we got term short-term vacation rental. Why do we have the word vacation in there? Just, unless there's something in the law that says that, because I've read it and I didn't see
I'll
that.
be honest, I borrowed that term from Warren County.
Okay, because all a person gotta do is say they're not using it for vacation. But we're not doing it for vacations, we're giving people a week's stay here for, less than 30 days to be in a place, and then they don't have to pay occupancy tax.
Yeah, they're here because they have a job here
Right,
in this area.
so you could strike vacation from that in both parts. Yeah, I agree, that's what I'm point. Thanks, good point.
So make that change before it appears on your desk.
I have a question. At what date does the governor have to sign it, or
December.
December 31st.
House got that long to do it? I'm not sure.
End of the session.
The pocket veto if he doesn't.
If she could wait just 60 days or so, that'd be great, because we want this in place before.
Yeah. So should towns be looking at this too? In your opinion?
If you wanna have your own,
Yeah.
so 40 N's on theirs, you might wanna have that discussion, say,
Any other towns?
You're
You're right.
okay, motion
Well,
for.
I guess my question is what benefit would it be to the town or the county? If the town did it themselves or the county.
But the benefit to me, if I don't have to do it, is rather result.
I figured that.
One benefit that we discussed is knowing how many and where these are,
Yeah,
because right now we don't.
and if the state has a registry, you still should, in a perfect.
A year later.
Oh. For everybody to be compliant with the law, you'll know online real time. We'll see how it rolls out. Everything looks good on paper. We'll see how it is in execution.
What's the penalty for people that don't register? I read in the paper Warren County is still chasing quite a few up there that are short term, but they aren't registered under the program.
I don't remember the state built in an actual number.
I don't know what the state law, I went town for it's $950 a day for every day you're not registered. So.
I'll make you register.
That'll make the judge.
Look at your
You get the point, bro.
You guys are tough up there as well.
Got a lot of scapegoats.
You're gonna prevent any scapegoats.
That's the intent.
That's it.
You know.
Okay, so.
And I just one quick thing, I'll just give you an example of that, okay? So we had a complaint from a neighbor up there, so I called the homeowner. And he says, absolutely not, he says, I'm not gonna rent that anymore, I rented it last year, that's why everything started this year, I haven't taken care of it. Okay, and I said, well, there was a complaint about it, et cetera, et cetera, so fast forward to this past weekend. There was another complaint from the same individual about the same place. So I said, there, of course, I'm gonna go take a look, see if the guy's, it's his family, like he told me he was, or if it's not. So he goes up and he asks for the guy, and the person says that, she says, no, we're just here renting. Okay, so, yeah. So no,
Say the
right,
name.
I think so.
Pardon?
Say the name, publicly shaven.
They'll know, they'll know.
So-
$950 a day bills coming his way.
Dana Hogan.
So far.
You asked.
And as we've been going through with the municipal sewer, that process of looking at SDUs and then that makes sure you look at water for EDUs. So what that does as a user fee on each of these homes, all of a sudden you've got a different variable in there with short-term rentals and how that operates. So it's interesting to have the data because you've got more bathrooms being used, more bedrooms being used, and more water is being used, which is ultimately sewer and water. So there's an income-based revenue, how it should be put into your short-term rentals. So that's something that we've been talking about and looking at, trying to understand. So this would help collect that data, be able to.
And that would be according to a certain area, like in Hebron, everybody has their own septic system,
Right.
their own water, you'd have no idea how much water they ever use. Very interesting. Okay, any motion to move B, Jay, second by James, Sam. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. I think we're gonna stay right with the resolutions in order until I skip something and Deb has to correct me. So C is buildings and grounds for furniture and probation. It's insurance recoveries for office equipment.
Okay.
Moved by Cassie, second by James and Sam. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. D is capital project H-125 for Burgoyne Avenue remodel engineering. Moved by Cassie, second by Sam. Any discussion on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Resolution E is public health preparedness grant. Moved by Kathy, second by Jay. Any discussion on that one? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. F is the men capital project 131, the Benton Dugan Bridge, Spanish Valley Aid. Moved by Cassie, second by James. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution G is budget to fund opioid settlement recommendations. Moved by Sam, second by Cassie. Any discussion on that? So,
Yeah, I'm trying to understand this, further. That, the ask seems like would be more of a budget item rather than putting the opioid settlement money as full, in my opinion, to put it towards the living rather than the debt. To put it frankly, but I don't know enough about it because I wasn't at that committee meeting. Melissa, can you share more about that?
Yes, so the opioid work group met and we heard from coroner Bob Lemieux as far as their need or request to have a toxicology instrument purchased for the morgue. There are several benefits to having this instrument, and I don't know, or if you want to come up and join us at the table, just in case I don't have all the answers.
Right up here, front rank, should Brett see.
One of the benefits to having this instrument is so that when Dr. Sikorica actually performs his autopsies, he's able to tell what drugs it was, I guess, that caused the death. Currently, there's a lab cost for those items to be tested. We send those out and there's a cost. So this will decrease that by about 40%, I believe is what we think. The other huge benefit to this instrument that I thought was interesting is that with the results, being able to get those, there is communication that can take place with the sheriff's office in regards to spike alerts. So it basically will let law enforcement know of new drugs that are out there that are causing deaths, and getting that information out to the public in a really quick way seems to be a huge benefit. And that's one of the big reasons why the work group thought that this would be a good use of these funds.
And as I recall, the time when you send it out before you get the results.
Could be 6 to 9 months.
Yeah.
this will be a lot quicker.
14 to 15 minutes. The law states that every death certificate that's an overdose has to have the specific drug that the person overdosed on. We'll get those results instead of having a pending death certificate that the family has to wait 9 months to a year. They will get an immediate, whether it's fentanyl overdose or whatever the overdose may be. So we also can notify law enforcement. So if we have a spike in fentanyl overdoses in a particular area, we're aware of that. So that's how it helps the living. But the other issue is families are waiting a lot of times to get insurance payments, retirement payments. And a lot of these people won't pay if the death certificate is pending. So this will get the result much quicker.
So you're probably talking a day or two, even though you know in a minute.
Well,
It's a day or two by the time you get the certificate out.
right.
So I just a two-part question. So where's the equipment actually gonna be located?
It's gonna be in the morgue at Glens Falls Hospital.
Okay. Is it gonna,
It's portable.
okay,
So if by some chance Albany Met was to ever throw us out, we own the equipment, we bring it back here and wherever else we have to go. That autopsies on that.
is this equipment gonna be used only at Washington County residents?
No.
No, okay. So we haven't asked any of the other counties to participate or no?
there's conversation that's taking place, and one of the thoughts was that we could actually charge other counties that want to use this machine, that also use Dr. Sigarica, that they could contribute in that way. But it would be a Washington County asset, be something that we would be purchasing.
Okay, so I guess, and not to be wise about this, but how far would that ask to be done the road before the machine's all wore out?
It's just, the machine is fine, it uses cassettes so each county will have to buy their own cassette for the machine or for the instrument. It doesn't have to be, I thought Tim was gonna be here because he's got the specs, but it doesn't have to be calibrated once a year. All of these cassettes, each county would buy, sample would go into the cassette and we would get the immediate result.
I'm not opposed to it, I just think if it's gonna support other counties.
They ought to pay their
They
share.
ought to pay their share, that's all.
That's right.
I think one of the concerns was if originally we had asked for only a portion of that for each county, but if something ever happened, then who owns the instrument? This way, Washington County owns the instrument and we can do what we need to do if something ever happens.
So,
One more question on this. So often the adults are using the drugs or whatever, and there is always been concern about, potential workers going in and protecting themselves from osmosis of drugs. And this instrument could give you a faster determination so that the kids in that house could be protected from drugs within that house. Is that gonna be used that way?
Well, I mean, obviously, when the person dies, the autopsy may be a day or two.
Right.
But once we know that, if there are people in that other house, law enforcement will immediately walk away with a death certificate. It's not a certified death certificate, but they'll walk away from the autopsy with a death certificate that says fentanyl overdose.
Okay, so that safety hazard will be brought back to the kids and the families in those homes.
Law enforcement then would have to reach out to Child Protective and take the steps from there.
so
The
this,
information will be available, but how that works
Right.
won't be in your office, that'll be in every other office.
so this would also be able to test our law enforcement officers or first responders or anybody else that was exposed as it was, because
It could be.
it could help us move their claims along for their families quicker as well. Correct.
I believe it would.
Yeah, it would. But again, we're not gonna have that sample. In New York State, coroners don't have the authorization or authority to do a sample at the scene. So it would have to be done at the morgue.
Right.
I think back to what Sue mentioned first, how does it help the living? I think people have to realize their decision to go down this road was not a decision made about living. When they go this road, there's very few survive this.
You don't wanna go there, do we?
I know, but I'm just telling you that.
Addictions are tough.
What's that? Oh, they are.
It's not
But-
recognized.
So if you don't go there, though, you don't have the addiction. Even if it's not always within your control, and I've had that discussion with you before. But I'm just saying that as far as, this is a bad route to pick and there's gotta be a deterrent and we've forgotten about that.
Yeah, and I can appreciate, and I certainly can appreciate why you need this, but I also know there's huge gaps in addiction recovery. And there's not enough beds available, there's not enough places for people to go. I think they put in 2 beds, I think they're probably filled all the time.
I also serve on the Warren Washington opioid committee that
Yeah.
meets. And one of the things they keep saying to us is, we need results, we need results, we need results. We can't give you results until we have.
If we're
something
waiting
like
6
this.
months,
We're
yeah.
waiting because by the time we give the results and send it to the state and they pocket every area or the county pockets, we're 6 months, 9 months down the road.
Treasure.
Supervisor Clary, if you haven't already, please contact Rob York.
Yeah.
His opioid funds are much more substantial than ours, and his funds are already plugged into a network that does what you're asking to be done. So unfortunately, when we first discussed this, our ability to make any difference with the pittance that we have just isn't there. But if you haven't already, please talk to Rob, because he really does have the means to get into a network he's already plugged into. So I just wanted to throw that out.
Thank you, that's it, that's
James.
huge.
What is the time frame for when you order the supplement to when you get it and it will be operative?
So we're still working with the vendor, to get that information. We don't have that yet.
Because I'm thinking I have the same concern as Sam is, I think there's a lot of positives to getting this, but other counties are using it. Maybe we should develop a fee schedule.
Yes, please.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the intent.
that will be the next step. I
We gotta
believe.
see how we get there.
Mr. Chairman, can I call a question?
Would you like to?
I'd like to, yes.
You sure can. Is there a second to call a question? Okay, let's vote. All favorite question?
Aye.
Okay, motion to move, G.
Second.
Moved by Cassie, second by Sam. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Thank you. I just want to say as of today, I alone, I haven't talked to the other corners, but I have 4 overdose pending cases, just me right now, since January. So we're waiting on results. We could have had them results.
Does that mean that everything in 23 is done? So that's just for you know of this year, so you've still got last year's.
I
backlog.
still have 3 outstanding from last year. But I had 10 up, so. Wow. You know, out of the 10 I've had, I'm still waiting on 3. Thank you.
Thank you. H is to amend the staffing pattern entitled by grade schedule, public health. Moved by Sam, second by James. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. I is the standard workday reporting resolution. There's a lot of names on there. Motion to move that. Moved by Mr. Hogan, second by Sam Jaffe. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay. What have I missed, Doug?
Your cloud.
That's it? Wow. Wow.
How come we don't have, what was the reason that two things were crossed out?
The what?
The fire community and the.
Ended up not being necessary. Both of them had enough budget. The fire training center had about 33,000 left and they needed 10. So no budget amendment is necessary. And the concrete line and the capital project did have enough contingency to cover the change.
I just didn't wonder if there was a problem or why I was coming back.
Legitimate question. Legitimate question. And actually, thanks Kevin for getting back to me quickly because it was all 5 minutes he had answered.
Okay, so started digging in last month on the budget projections of things we actually know that are gonna be in next year's budget. And these are the numbers that we know weren't there last year that are gonna be there this year. That's that first paragraph. Had to change the health insurance one after yesterday's meeting because it's far worse than we thought. So we already went through the workers' comp. That was an increase in changing the formula, and we did that 2 months ago, probably. The second one is the Adirondack Community College budget that we've already went through that too. Medicaid is the last leg of us getting to the state cap number. So we did that over time, but that's one more increase. The health insurance, there's no end in sight in this. I have no idea where that's going, but that's looking at a 15 to 20% increase to our employees at that number. So, and of course, we've already bailed it out twice to the tune of 3 million, 1 million and then 2 million. So that's a real debacle. And the state pension, the Dow's up the highest it's ever been, and yet they still want to increase us 900,000 on our pension. That one makes no sense to me, but we have no choice. That's a blank check.
If you haven't seen it yet, NICEAG released an email this morning that the retirement fund saw returns of over 11%, and they're still raising our rates.
And they only
It's
paid
based
out
on
3.
multiple years.
They're saying there's a 5-year smoothing.
Yeah.
But the fund returned 11% and the expected rate of return was like 5.6. So
Yeah.
you can't sell to me that this is a legitimate.
And they only pay out 3, so there's something that
Something-
that. And they
So-
claim.
The math isn't math.
Like 69 billion in there or something.
Yeah, it's for everybody retiring today. It's in the
Right.
system, which is never gonna happen, but. And the bigger problem with that was they actually told us that their changes to tier 6 would amount to 0.5% increase. Well, this is like 8.5 to 9% increase. So but it's what it is. I gotta tell you what the reality is. And then if everybody in the county, and most of our contracts are in place, some aren't, but this includes the ones that are or aren't, doesn't matter. Taking what we know, people that work for us with the longevity, 2.5% is 1.2 million. So before there's any requests from anybody in the county, we're up $3,342,681 with the best numbers I got today. The last year, our fund balance number was 3.371032, which means the total to be balanced would be 6,713,713. So I know there's a possibility that there's other revenues coming. The only ones I know that off the top of my head that we see, yes, we have the possibility of sales tax that we could move that $1 million higher. Property tax, our cap isn't quite $1 million, and we know sewer district's gonna take part of it. So we're saying 950. Those things may change a little. In fund balance, I don't like being over 2 million at all. I think 3 million was high, but last year when we did it, we realized we were gonna return at least the 3.3 million, and we returned close to 5 or something. So I'm not sure in the future, because of the way they've set it up now, that we can expect to return more than 2 million. So we know there will be asks and requests, coming here in a month or two in the budget, but we're already facing $2.7 million in cuts with what we know today before anything they ask for. So if we're gonna add another 500,000, you gotta cut 3.2 million to get the 500,000 to fit. So what's really weird to me is anytime this has happened in the past, we've seen either sales tax revenue plummet or something else. This is just inflation at its finest. This is the cost of everything going up, whether it be your healthcare, your pension, Medicaid, which is still healthcare, but everything has gone up. And there's to be sustainable, we've got to somehow control that. The good news is we put our one-time money in one-time things, and we think we have enough there to see them do succession.
Didn't do yesterday.
Well, I don't know about that, but
Stay tuned.
okay. So at least we've made a path to get there. But this one's gonna be more of a challenge, and I don't know how many empty positions we have, if there's a way that we can say, okay, we've been getting by for this long and it's working. Can we not put all those in the budget and maybe fill less of them? Like the county attorney's office, you can't really say, no, you can't hire anybody. They're so short, they gotta be able to hire somebody. So it's gonna be a tough scalpel. It's not gonna be, you can just make one breath loss. You're gonna have to get down and pick and choose. So I just want you to know what you're up against before we start, because I've never seen it like this. It's just different. Any questions or suggestions? Well, it's food for thought.
The budget workshops this year really, really need your scalpels with you this year as best you can. I mean,
You're gonna have to bring in a half
A lot of
that.
stuff previous years, so we'll get to this point.
we've had a lot of yeses that, to your point, maybe should be looked at. We have a 7-year replacement on our vehicles. We need to look at, I don't think anything is off the table. We need to be looking at everything. I don't know what the asks are gonna be. I don't.
It's just hard to have the conversation when we're so damn flush with money, but we know that we're gonna fall off that ledge. So you gotta know now before we go further.
It's just very interesting because last year and this year, looking at the financials are fine. But when you start planning for next year, it's like things are drastically different going into 2025. I saw a news report this morning that Saratoga County settled their CSEA contract yesterday. And if that's a sign of where we're going, this 1.2 would wait for 2026. So I just, you know.
Dave's got us covered for 2026 on that.
And to that point, I'm not gonna belabor this, but I am a little bit. You will be having a conversation with me in the very near future. Some of the towns involved already are. When the new pilot money comes in, this board and any of the towns affected are gonna have some very significant decisions to make. Because of the way the pilot payments affect your tax cap. Right, so when that pilot money comes in, you're going to either have to reduce your levy or override the cap, which would give you the ability in theory to keep your rate flat. So there is a way to take in the new money without raising taxes. There is a way to take in the money without reducing taxes. We will have a very, I'm sure, spirited discussion here at the county level when it comes time to make that decision. Because it's extremely important. Because if whatever it was a learning tool for any of us, not only do we have to plan for what happens when the pilot starts, we absolutely have to plan for what happens when the pilot ends. We're not doing the people that are in the seats behind us any favors if we don't plan now for what the pilot looks like at the end. Mr. Hogan.
I have a general question. Our budgets are around 130.
I can check for you. It's over 110 anyway, but it might be.
So it's roughly 2%, right? It's the 2% shouldn't be able to be told department heads. We'd like to see a 2%.
I wanted you guys to see it first, so when they come running to you, well, that can't be real. I want you to know it's real. So
That's what you're getting across, that's up to be a 2 to 3%.
I have not gone there yet. I'm letting you guys know first, but that message is about to go there. That's where
They'll make their determination. It's to be reduced.
I think that's only fair. But I had to realize it was real before I could bring this to you guys.
Yeah.
And it's like, when you break it down and see it's real, and then what happens if behind this, the following year, sales tax drops off or something, you don't know what's coming. So just thank God that sales tax is staying where it is and we might be able to increase what we budget this year. But I don't want to budget so far out of whack, there's no coming back from it. Cause that's how you really, if you want to really lose fund balance, and we did in 2008 or 9, like the first year I was here, and it wasn't through anybody's fault. Nobody realized what was coming. And then I became budget officer and lowered it. And that year we actually worked out good because it rebuilt our fund balance. But we were afraid of it happening again. And that year it went up a couple million. So thank God it did. But yeah, you like to be ahead of the curve. You just don't realize how bad it can get. And this was sobering to me because I didn't expect when the financials were this great to see this kind of effect right in front of us in 2025.
I felt kind of bad the first day he came to me with a draft sheet. Was the same day that I got the projection for the retirement system. So the day where he was already stressed out, I got to make it work.
I thought, man, I'm thinking this could be as bad as $1 million. He comes, no, it's not. It's 2.5. And then yesterday it took us over 3. So just making everybody aware. So.
Brian, as far as the auction, that should get back on track in October. Would that help with a little bit of revenue or just pay it back?
We'll just lose more every year.
We now have to share the surplus and eat the losses, so it's gonna hurt us. It gets the tax receivable off my books.
Yeah.
But we're actually going to, any surplus monies that we achieved from past auctions are no longer a thing. And so not only will we lose the $150,000 or $200,000 in revenue, we will eat any of the properties that bring less than they. And we have some very significant liens out there. Some of these people, one of the properties you're aware of, owes from 2015 because of multiple bankruptcies. So we're gonna eat all those. We're gonna eat a couple $100,000 on one property. It's just gonna happen. But again, at least it's cleared off the books and we move forward and hopefully.
Thank you.
Good luck with your town budgets, because it shouldn't be quite near as dire there, but that pension, the increase is gonna be huge on town budgets.
Because the healthcare is probably going up like 17–18%. Mine went up.
1, 2. So, and it's almost, as much as I hate to hear that, it almost makes me feel better that our decision wasn't totally bad with the fully self-insured, because in our towns we're community rated. And you're seeing now they're building that right in, so it really didn't matter where we were at.
And that's
Just
what Benetech predicted that if we did.
Yeah.
So we're basically making a payment plan on a balloon payment that we would have paid under the old. So if we hadn't gone self-insured, the renewal in June, we would have paid this. So it's a pay me now or pay me later system, right? So while our monthly bills are higher than they were, our renewal in June isn't gonna be this big balloon payment that comes back to us for 25, so.
It's just very interesting to see it all come full circle to once, and I don't know what taxpayers are gonna put up with, but hopefully they're gonna learn to vote.
The scary part of this is that I don't think it's gonna go away. I think we're gonna lose double-digit increases in the next 2 or 3 years at the town level now and at the county level. And scary is that what's it gonna do to our employees paying part of their healthcare insurance?
And I think I've said this in the past, by us bailing it out, we've helped the employees a great deal. They're not gonna see that because they believe they're paying the 25% they agreed to, but our bailout is switching that a little bit. But still, eventually, we've gotta make it match.
We can't support that every year. And
Right, and so we're looking at 15 to 20% increase to the employees
Which doesn't get us there
next
still.
year, but it still doesn't get us there.
The projected need is 28%.
And then they're looking at 2.5% increase, and that's gonna be sucked up by a lot of their healthcare.
Correct.
Which brings a lot of concern as far as retention.
And negotiating the contracts.
And that's why I wanna make sure we are fitted to the right size with our employees, because maybe we do have to have less to fund it, but we're gonna have to pay some of them more too. And, you know, we can't just quit paying and have a whole bunch of them. We're gonna have to right size everything, and it's been taking care of itself because we couldn't hire. Now supposedly we can, but that was a huge turnover we saw this morning. So I gotta believe that that's even gonna go away. They're even talking nationally that unemployment is gonna come back again, so. We'll see. But it's just a new challenge. It was an interesting time for it to hit when everything looks so good. It just shows you how phony everything is on paper that you see and read right now. That's all I got, unless anybody's got any questions. Adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, George.